I'm still in the original farmhouse that was in my family since 1790.
Wow.
Which was today. It's the farm. The original farm is today part of the Colebrook Preserve, which is a county park.
Okay.
My father had retired back in the mid to late 70s. He had sold it to someone that was going to develop it. However, the residents at the time in Oldwick, which is the village I live in,
Right.
did not want to see it developed, so they pulled together resources. They put easements on their own property to convince the developer from a financial standpoint that it was better for him to preserve it. So
Good.
the county stepped in with Green Acres funds and preserved it. So it is what I'll call a passive park today, hiking, horseback riding.
Whereabouts in?
It is just on the northern fringe of the village of Oldwick, right
Okay.
on County Route 517.
Okay.
It's 290 acres approximately.
And it's
Excuse
still-
me, it's 198 acres.
And the property is still in the family name, or is it deeded to?
No, it's deeded to the county. I have the 1.7 acres that my father carved off with
Got
the
it.
original farmhouse.
So you're just above where Taggart is there. I don't know.
I'm right across the street from Taggart's.
Okay.
Correct.
I met him about 10 or 15 years ago,
Mhm.
and he was a large retailer up just north of Clifton, New
Okay.
Jersey, and I've lost track of him, but I remember he was right there.
Yes, yes,
Leased this property.
yes. So I went to Tewksbury Public Schools.
Okay.
Then Voorhees High School, because the northern part of the county is in the North Hunterdon Voorhees Regional District,
Right.
12 municipalities. So I went to Voorhees High School. My goal at the time when I graduated was I wanted to be a pharmacist. I had applied to various pharmacy schools because I saw it as a service, to the public. I had an
Right.
interest in science. I didn't want to be a doctor only because of the amount of time it takes
Yep.
to do that. And so I tried to get into Rutgers. Rutgers was very difficult to get into. So I was successful in getting into Northeastern University up in Boston.
Okay.
And went there for a semester. Unfortunately, hated the living atmosphere, hated dormitory life, and unfortunately, between the alcohol and drugs was prevalent, and couldn't concentrate, couldn't focus. I had biology and chemistry 3 days a week, and my father was paying, upwards at that time, $17,000 a year for, here's a kid getting A's and B's in high school, and I was getting C's and a D, that first semester. So
Right.
made the decision to come home, and went to Raritan Valley Community College.
Okay.
Got an associate's degree in chemistry because I figured, well, if I wanted to stay on the pharmacy, I got to get the chemistry out of the way.
Right.
Graduated from Raritan Valley with that associate's degree and transferred into what was then Trenton State College.
Okay.
Today the College of New Jersey. I went on and got a bachelor's degree in chemistry. And during college, I worked 2 summers at AT&T Bell Laboratories, or what was then, AT&T Bell Laboratories. Very difficult place to get into. Bell Labs, though, being world renowned in terms of science and research. They were looking for chemistry majors to help them do a site-wide chemical inventory. So I got, great experience there. 2 summers, got credit one of the summers. And because of the movement between the schools, I was off a semester, so I, was graduating in December versus the traditional
Yep.
May. And they asked me what I was going to do, and I said, well, I'm going to go out and look for a job. At that point, I had decided I didn't think I was going to try to do the pharmacy or try to complete that track. And so they offered me a job as a contract employee to keep basically working in their environmental health and safety group. And they said there may be a small opportunity that opens up where we could hire you as an employee, which they did. That was in the summer of '96. And so I had a decision to make as to whether, because I had never envisioned myself going to work for a big corporation. I was, thinking the pharmacy, small. My goal was I wanted to have my own pharmacy here in Hunterdon County. So.
Right.
But, the opportunity presented itself, and so I took the job, and then AT&T over the next 10 plus years evolved, spun out a company called Lucent Technologies, so went to work for them because Bell Labs in its entirety went to work for Lucent. Lucent did great. First 3 to 4 years, stock split twice. Then the telecom, the bottom went out of the telecom sector late 2000, 2001. Lucent had made poor business decisions on top of that, which then compounded the downward spiral. So then the company basically remade itself. We shed thousands of employees. I hung on. We then were purchased by a French telecommunications company, Alcatel,
Yes,
and
I
became Alcatel-Lucent. But the company was reincorporated in France, and it continued to downward spiral, and I saw it eventually, hitting me, even though I was still, certainly relatively young. And I then started to look for new opportunities, and so Merck was looking for environmental health and safety professionals at their Rahway facility, which is Merck's research hub. So that is where I still am today at Merck.
Are you really?
And company.
A small world. That was my first job at Merck.
Really?
So once again, for those of you tuned in a little late, this is Joe Peters with Real Estate Matters talking to Shaun Van Doren, who is our freehold director here in Hunterdon, and he's going through a little bit of his background. I got a job in Merck. I'm not going to tell you what year because I'm going to age myself, but I spent some time in Rahway in the computer end of the business, and it was quite an interesting company. I started as a mail clerk, so I got to drive the motor school around, understand the company a lot, and there was a manufacturing side, there was a research side, there was an IT side. I said, that looks like the cleanest of the three. And everybody in research had their PhD and worked around the clock. I didn't think I had a future over there. So, wow, and you're still at Merck.
So I'm still there, be 12 years later this year, and doing, environmental health and safety, which is basically OSHA compliance, lab safety, supporting the research side of the business. Since the Rahway site is the, original site that George Merck founded when Merck was founded in the United States, and so it's, over 100 years old and going strong.
I remember they wrote the Merck manual. Is that still in existence?
They still have the Merck manual.
Isn't that amazing?
And so it's been for me, it's been a great career in the health and safety field, because so I never have been a bench chemist, in terms of having the chemistry, but the chemistry actually helps me understand the reactions and the research that the scientists are working on, and then guide them to do it safely so that they're not,
So you never got into pharmacy itself?
So I never got into the pharmacy itself. No, I think, and I look back on my time up at Northeastern, because I loved Boston. I've been back to Boston and love it as a city. And I think if my, experience in terms of the dormitory life and living atmosphere had been different, I probably wouldn't have come back to Hunterdon County, because I would have certainly, finished that 5-year program. And normally you start to, as a pharmacist, work in a hospital pharmacy to get experience, and then, move on from there. So
it's a great field, though, today. I have a lot of people that are pharmacists that are making substantial income and not with a lot of demand on their time. Yes, they have a very responsible job, but they go home at 5 o'clock or at 8 o'clock. There's nobody calling them in the middle of the night, and there's no heavy-duty insurance they can have in the other medical fields.
Correct.
So you obviously grew up in Hunterdon, understood Hunterdon. You worked fairly local. It's probably 25 miles away to Merck. And
it's about a 40-minute commute from
40 minutes,
from Hunterdon.
And I saw your name coming along in politics over the years. I've been here about 20 years. We moved up from Middlesex County, and I knew there's Van Doren Oil. Is that the same?
That's my uncle, Ben Van Doren, that started the oil company back in 1939. Yes.
Great.
So that's family. I got started in politics. As soon as I got my driver's license, I I said to my father one day, well, I'm going to the township committee meeting tonight. This is again in Tewksbury. And he said to me, he says, well, what are you going for? And I said, well, I just want to listen. He says, well, don't say anything. He says, you know, you're not a taxpayer. He said, you know, they're going to see a young 18-year-old kid coming in there and say, who's this and what's he doing? And I said, no, I'm not going to embarrass you or you know, anything like that. So, you know, I just sat in a room and was listening to the issues going on. And at that time, the big issues were recycling was just taking off. In other words, it was starting to become, the state was pushing municipalities to do recycling, and we had to do it ourselves, basically. There wasn't curbside pickup. Back then, we brought it to a depot, which the town managed all the volunteers. So I volunteered one Saturday a month to go to the depot and help do recycling. And, you know, the mayor then saw I was interested, and I then served on a recycling commission, because there was a commission back then for the town. And then, you know, moved over into affordable housing, because that was the next big
Still is
issue, and it still is, unfortunately, today, in terms of towns, you know, trying to satisfy their obligation, their affordable housing obligation. Got involved in that and learned that, and then I was also got interested in local history again through my father, for, you know, with having an extensive family history. And so got involved in the local historical society that a woman by the name of Maud Kenyon had formed, because she wanted the old families to be involved in it. And I've been the president of that on and off for the last almost 15 years.
That's fascinating.
And also serve as the township historian in Tewksbury. But up to 90, so in 96, I saw a different direction in the town that I wasn't too pleased with, so I jumped in feet first and ran in a primary, challenged the incumbent mayor that year. The township form of government, the individual committee chooses who the mayor is, so the mayor's not separately elected. And I won, and went on to spend 21 years in municipal government, 3 one-year terms as mayor, and, you know, got a wealth of experience from, you know, going to meet other elected officials in other towns, going to the State League of Municipalities Conference and seeing how, you know, other towns share services, buying equipment. You know, I paid myself to go to the Rutgers elected officials course series, which was a series of courses in administration, finance, zoning, and land use, and got, you know, you got a certificate at the end of your, you had to put in 25 hours, I think it was. And, you know, just kept absorbing all while, you know, working full time, and which is, you know, what I still do today, except now I'm, you know, I was retiring. I did retire. I considered it from municipal government after 21 years, and was kind of planning to retire from elected office when, you know, there was an opening on the Freeholder board. And people approached me. I had run 2 previous times for Freeholder during my tenure on the township committee, was unsuccessful. And, you know, people approached me and said, oh, you know, the 3rd time's the charm, and you gotta try one more time. And the previous, you know, 2 times, in one instance there was an open seat, and in one instance there wasn't. This 3rd time there was, and I was, you know, successful. And so now, you know, 3 years goes by quickly, because now I'm up for re-election to the board for a 2nd term. So
it's a 2-year term?
It's a 3-year term.
3-year term.
Yeah.
Okay. So Suzanne retired last year.
She retired last year. She was replaced on January 1st of this year by Zach Rich, mayor and committee member in West Amwell Township. And then previous to that, 2 years ago, when John King left the board, Sue Soloway replaced him.
I met Sue at a fundraiser somewhere once, but I doubt she.
So there's been three new members in 3 years, basically, myself, Sue, and
which is
and
not
now
bad,
Zach,
because it's bringing new blood and new thinking in, and young thinking, which is good.
And, you know, it's a great board. I mean, while we are all Republican, you know, while we get along, we certainly have our differences on how to do things, which is, you know, a healthy discussion.
So it is all 5 are Republican?
All 5 are Republican.
Okay, did not realize that. So my background, just so we could figure out how we got to talking to each other today, is I moved out here about 20 years ago, was doing corporate sales out of Newark Airport on an airplane, and somewhere around '04 got to do real estate as a professional part-time, and eventually it became full-time as those corporate jobs eliminated themselves in the 2000s. I've gotten involved in the county from, my better half says, you want to be mayor or something? I said, no, I just want to make a difference by being involved. I have no political aspiration, but I've done leadership Hunterdon, and then when I finished that, I went and did leadership Somerset, because my office is over in Warren, Watchung.
Okay.
And I live in Beaverbrook. So my patch, whatever you want to call it, is right down 78 between those two locations. But I'm on Board of Realtors for Hunterdon and Somerset. We now merged with Mercer, so we've got about 4,500. I've chaired the education committee for them for the last 5 years. So we've got 4,500 realtors, have to get 12 credits every 2 years. It's pretty disciplined environment now, might not have been when you first joined. And I've been getting involved where I think I can help. I'm on the tourism committee in Somerset. I'm getting on the tourism committee here. I'm an ambassador here and in Somerset that helps the people coming into the chamber get seated and find out where things are at.
Right.
And along to half a dozen different odd end things along the way. I do real estate full time, and I'm at the same time enjoying life. You know, I'm a senior. One of the things I want to talk to you about is senior housing a little bit today. It seems to be not a big subject in this county, but it's an interesting one.
Sure.
But I went back and read through what you talked about, and the very first thing came out is you were unanimously chosen. Sue is yours deputy.
Deputy director, yes.
And reducing the budget, increasing government transparency were the two things in this article that you said you were going to do as keynotes for this year. Why? I can understand the budget, because I mean, we've been budget conscious for years, but why the transparency? What was it not that you want to make it?
Well, I think, unfortunately, people I get the sense people get cynical about government and not, in some ways, trusting government to do the right thing for them. And, you know, part of the criticism that I've been hearing is about, well, you know, we don't know what's going on, but we can't get to meetings. You know, for whatever reason, timing, date, you know, things. And so people had been clamoring for some time about, well, why can't we listen to the meetings? And so, you know, I put forth the proposal, which had been batted around previous to my getting there. And I brought it back on the table, and I said, we've got the technology, and we record our meetings anyway so that they can be transcribed for the minutes. And then we go through a process to, once the minutes are approved, there's a state approved process where you can then legally destroy the audio. And in this case, the audio is loaded the next day onto the web. So as of the January 6th reorganization meeting, the meetings we've had so far this year, you now can go and listen to hear what happened at the meeting.
And they're on the county website?
And they're on the county website. So it's not, you know, certainly there are municipalities and maybe counties that are ahead of us in terms of that it's live and it's, you know, real time, but we gotta take baby steps to get there. So that's one of my.
It's not much different than here. I don't think there's $2,000 worth of equipment sitting here, and we're heard around the world as we talk. If somebody's so listened, but we're on the internet, not on airwaves.
Right.
But the replays is where we get it, and I can understand that.
Right.
I'll give you a good example. We have a big real estate convention in December, and I have a timeshare, so I never go to it, because that's my timeshare works in the Keys, and I love fishing more than real estate. So when I come back, I buy the podcast of everything that went on, and I listen to it as an exercise for the next month or two. I'm still at the thing. It saved a lot of money. I just caught a lot of fish. So I think it's and then sitting and listening to people like Joe Rogan doing broadcast and podcast. I mean, he interviews some amazing people out there, and this guy's a weightlifter, and he gets to the crux of it. I heard him do something of Jamie Wetzel, blew my mind on the futures of genetics and whatever. And I'm saying, oh, this guy's good.
Right. Then we've got the Hunterdon Report, which is an online emailed newsletter about things that are happening around the county, both decisions that
Right.
we as freeholders make or any of our other boards, committees, and commissions. That's been ongoing since last year, but then also this year we started what's called the Morning Report, which is if there's actions of substance or something we want to get out right away that happened at a freeholder meeting the next day, the next morning, i.e. morning report, there would be a communication out to the email list on the website, and more use of social media, so making more use of Facebook, Twitter, that the county has, and Instagram, to communicate with younger people. I mean, again, it's the social media. They're not reading letters that come in the mail. They're not reading the newspaper. I like to still sit down every morning before I go to work and read the Courier News and the Star Ledger. Those are papers I get delivered to the house. So I'm still old school. I like to have a newspaper in my hand, even though I still read a lot online. So it's that transparent, those pieces that I think fit into the transparency piece.
I think it's important for drawing young people to hear.
Right.
I mean, my observation is, and this is 20 years of observation, we are losing youth because there's not much for them to do here.
Yes.
And there's not much work for them. We're a $20 an hour society if you work here. Okay, 99% of the jobs are in that category, and people from Pennsylvania are about 2/3 of our workforce. So everybody here goes a little further east. We call it traffic, and it keeps working. But the people we're losing were not coming back, but the people that are coming back for good reasons. And I bring about 4 sets of people into the county each year, and it's for quality of life. It's the reason we moved here.
Right.
My kids said, "What are you going all the way up there in the woods for?" I'm saying, because that's where I want to be. This is it. And I can't tell you, the average person that comes into Hunterdon County that I've worked with in the last 5 years is between 1 and 2 children, probably expecting their second, and love nature and are looking for a better quality of life than where they're at. And in some extent, it's a sacrifice commute-wise. It's because when we moved here, Marilyn worked for Rutgers Medical School, and she was on the admission office down there, so she drove for the first 17, 18 years all the way back to Piscataway, to the, I guess it's the Bush campus.
Bush campus, right.
In Piscataway. And she hated the drive, but she loved coming home.
Right.
So she said every day she'd go around Valley, and she'd go, "You can't believe it, it's like a postcard up here, so different than yesterday."
Yes.
So, I mean, we both get really excited about the county, and we both are nature lovers, and we moved out here after the kids were grown, and then when they come, they go back, but they sort of enjoy, they can't believe we have deer in the backyard. I said, we're not proud of that.
No. No.
So I think what we've got is a hidden treasure for New Jersey. And when people ask me what's the difference between Somerset and Hunterdon, and I'm very involved in Somerset as well, I say, if you want to turn left at the cows and right at the horses, you want Hunterdon County. If you want a few cows and horses, Somerset's got that. But they don't have any dairy farms left. You're going to live on about 1/3 of the size of the property you're going to live on in Hunterdon County. It's going to cost you $20. That's the difference.
Right.
Plus, the ethnicity mix here is much lower than in Somerset County. I was on the fellow that runs RVCC, Mike Madonna, and I were on a diversity task force for Somerset County, and they're at about 44% non-Caucasian at this point in time. And I know when I went through the class, we were about 6 or 8. So, or I should say, just to trend the opposite of 6 or 8, there were 6 or 8% non-Caucasian. Yeah,
Okay.
I did say it right, I guess. So I'm not saying that's wrong, and it is going to keep coming west, and I think it's good because that's what's making things happen. I mean, we have statistics showing that Somerset County suffers from the same problem Hunterdon County does. People are moving east when they get out of high school.
Right.
And if it wasn't for the influx of immigration into the chem and pharma industries in Somerset County, we'd have had a net minus of workers. So we need the people to come here. It's just that we're a little tougher to commute from, so that they don't come this far. People used to come to 31 plus about a mile, and that's as far as they want to go.
Right.
Now they're going to about 287 and stopping. And
Right.
it's tough to overcome, and this is something Hugh says, if we ever get into autonomous autos or transportation, we can get them back here because we still have the great place to live. But Mark, who's right across the hall, Mark Salek, says, Joe, we only lost 2 people last year, and I'm still looking for them. So we're doing better because we lost a lot more the years before.
Well, we have our challenges. I mean, the lack of mass transit, which dovetails into the affordable housing
Right.
quagmire that Hunterdon and its municipalities have been in for years. You know, when I've sitting on the municipal side and argued with developers, I said, you know, we need to. I'm all for affordable housing and having, you know, low income, moderate income based on the numbers that the state, you know,
Right.
gives us. But how are you going to get these people to get to jobs? Because certainly in Tewksbury, we don't have any industry. We have one corporation, AM Best. I mean, granted, the county has, you know, much more to offer looking at a county level, but still, people need a car to get there because we have, you know, the Raritan Valley line, which, you know, is basically in the northern part of the county. You've got Transbridge bus line for people to commute by bus into Port Authority and New York, but, you know, we don't have New Jersey Transit bus routes all over the county, and so it's been a challenge. And
I had Janice sitting there, Kovac and John sitting there from Clinton Township, and we talked about affordable housing in the last 3 months. And I said, if I heard the 2 of you right, because we do 50% of all the real estate in Reddington, Raritan, Glen, and Clinton Township. So I took those 4 mayors and I brought them to Branchburg, and we talked to the realtors of Hunterdon County about affordable housing.
Okay.
They don't have a clue what's going on. And I think to a great extent, we helped that. To a great extent, not many attended. But I said, John and Jess, you're telling me that we're going to put 1,800 or 800 units in a square mile worth 7131 cross, 31 cross over the next 5 years. And if each one of those has 1.7 cars, and we don't do a traffic impact study,
Right.
and I think it's probably less, but that's the state average, and I think it's less than affordable. So they each have 1. That's 700 more cars.
Right.
I wouldn't say we have a traffic problem already,
Yeah.
but it's going to really make one. And it's not that we're just seeing it here. Our Watchung office, they can't get out of their driveway up by the lakes in Watchung for 40 minutes sometimes because of someone. And they're going to build 800 units there too about it. So it's something that's being imposed on it that we think is the right thing to do, but it doesn't matter. We have to do it. And I had Paul Muirst here a couple of weeks ago. He said, we got ours down in a river basin, and they can't build them in a river basin, so we're sort of off the hook. I said, well, that's good, because I'm listening to the others. I had the fellow from Reddington Township. They're going to put about 800 units behind White House Station, where that old ripped-down diner is there. And he's more worried about traffic coming out on the 22, causing friction on 22,
Yes.
and bringing them down to a light and getting them out.
Yes.
And
Well, and we see it on our county road network. You have the 500 series roads, which are 517, 523, are, you know, the 2 of the heaviest traveled roads in the county. 517, which goes past my front door,
right.
is you know, remember, starts up almost at High Point in Sussex County and winds its way from Sussex, Warren, down through Morris, down over Schooley's Mountain. And why? Because people want to get to Route 78. They don't want to get on 80 because 80 is already, you know, backed up. And so, you know, I mean, at last count, and this was probably 2 or 3 years ago, I think there's 15 to 16,000 cars a day just on that route. And most of it is what I'd call transient. In other words, coming from out of the county, through the county to get to a major, you know, highway corridor.
And they're not stopping and spending their money.
No.
Because John Maddox in Somerset County talks about businesses that bring business into the county, like Lucent. Here's a gem. You're in Nevada making a phone call, Lucent's running it, they're spending it here.
Right.
But not necessarily when you're driving through.
Right.
And we've got the Merck thing going forward, which is a great start, but it's a small start.
Right.
And I think I'd love to see it turn into a technology center, but.
Oh, you're talking about Unicom, the Unicom Global, yeah,
right.
yeah.
It looks like a great step in the right direction, but it's a small step for right now.
Well, and now Merck announced a little over a week ago that Merck is going to spin out a new company that is going to be consist of 10 to 11,000 employees. That's $6.5 billion in revenue. That's going to comprise the women's health and various existing products that are off patent but are, continue to be successful.
Right.
It's going to be headquartered somewhere here in New Jersey. And so that's, a bright spot on several levels because, there'll certainly be opportunity to hire people for jobs. I'm hopeful that it's, centered, in this part of the state, in terms of, because it's going to continue to have supply agreements with, Mother Merck, I'll call it, after the company spun off. This is supposed to happen in 2021.
Okay.
But it'll be, and every Merck shareholder who has stock today will get stock in this, in this new entity. So I think it's an exciting time, certainly for pharma, regardless of what's, going on at the federal level and drug prices and attempted regulation and things.
I
But
network group that meets Wednesdays in Warren, and these guys are in a stratosphere. I feel gifted to be sitting at the table with them. And one guy attends purchase order manager conferences in San Diego every year. He says, last year, the theme of the conference was we can't find skilled labor. He says, that's not the theme anymore. This year's theme is we can't find labor. They don't care about the skill.
Yeah.
We're out of people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're paying, and we see it even in real estate, we're paying people $15 an hour to start at most of the grocery stores and the Costco type stores. And that sounds like a lot of money to some people, and it's a lot better than $10 an hour. But in effect, if we don't have any people left, it doesn't matter, because that's why we're paying them. So we're stealing from each other. And that's the only thing you've got left to do, because only so many people are gonna come in from Pennsylvania. Are they skilled workers? The whole auto industry seems to employ Pennsylvania people, and they're great people.
Right.
So I guess aside the hospital education, I was told that education is 2/3 Pennsylvania people. And our people are going for Maurice to find, so they can afford to live here in Hunterdon County.
Yes.
So they're looking for employment that pays the price. I mean, one of the things Mark Salick and I go around about, he says, well, if we build a job, bring the jobs, people will come. I said, where the hell are they gonna live? For $50,000, which is a starting 4-year college degree anymore, somewhere between 50 and 60, you can only afford $1,200 to $1,300 a month. We don't have anything, even for rent at $1,200 to $1,300 a month.
Right.
So we need what I think, I always go back to It's a Wonderful Life. We need that starter housing that they were building out on the old man's land, where we can put people into $200,000 and $300,000 housing and let them grow up here. But the price of land is so high, and to a great extent, I know at the county level you weren't in it, but at the local level, it's local rule as to what happens.
Correct.
And Tewksbury is one of the most restrictive places to build in the county.
Correct.
Because of the money that's up there that wanted to preserve it.
Well, and the Highlands too. I mean,
And
the state, imposing the Highlands, which we actually embraced in Tewksbury because we wanted to slow the growth down and wanted to keep, it open, rural, pristine, and, we had higher zoning already, and, the Highlands, has helped do that, and coupled with, farmland preservation and open space, which is something that, that the county, fortunately has continued to be a leader in.
So what about what I touched on a little earlier on seniors? Is there any plans for senior living? I know it gets convoluted into this affordable housing.
Yeah, it all ends up getting, intertwined, based on what types of credits municipalities can get for low and or moderate, income housing. And unfortunately every town is, controls its own destiny in that regard. So there's no master plan when it comes to looking at that on a county level, because I can't tell you from one town to the next, who's got what plan. I mean, it's been a challenge. Seniors want to continue to live here. They, if they can't continue to live in their own home, at least to be able to stay in the county.
As of January, we had 18 active listings for 55 plus.
18, yeah.
18, and we sold 2.
Okay.
And I would tell you to sell, I'll tell you where they're at. There's only 4 of them. It's Flemington Fields. It's this little thing called something Farms here off the Second Circle.
Okay.
It's out in Reddington, there is some high-rise there, that's senior
Mhm,
housing. But
mhm.
it's, you gotta now combine it with income-restricted senior housing.
Okay.
And there's Herman whatever here on Church Street. I don't
Oh,
think-
Hermit Cap, yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more for, so you're either gonna be below minimum level to live in there, or you need, most people that I see, and I just moved a couple from Alexandria to Four Seasons, and they're looking to sell a house, take the equity in the house, and just roll it over for the
Mhm.
401k. They wanna roll it over and be where they don't have to do anything outside. That's the biggest thing. I want my life back.
Right, right.
And we just don't have anything for it. If you go over to like Canal Walk, which is not the most opportune place, but it's between Somerset and Manville, they've got 1,400 units. You can get 350 high-rise units,
Mm.
which is a nice price. You can get 450s with a first bedroom. You can get one single-family 400s in there, but most of them are in 5s and 6s. They seem to have hit it, and that was built by the Wolf family as investors a long time ago. It's about 14 years old now, but.
That's the
see-
Wolf family that owns the Minnesota Vikings, yeah.
And I
Okay.
think they also built Costco and a couple of other things. And I talked to Mark about this. I said, Mark, what we have in senior housing is down here in Flemington. Where we need it is right where I am and you are, is up on 78.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
people don't wanna come to 78, come all the way down to Flemington. They're
Right.
different people. You're gonna go out through Somerville Circle. I would think if what I learned in Leadership Hunterdon was from DJ, the undertaker, that I asked him how many people die a year in Hunterdon County. He says, let me think. I said, wait a minute, this is your business. You can't tell me. He says, I gotta back all the people who moved to Pennsylvania, come back here when they die.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's happening to our seniors. They're just creeping into Pennsylvania, and they're still 20 minutes away from their barber, their doctor, and whatever.
Right.
And their undertaker, unfortunately. But what this guy Jim Hughes said, he said the rock around the clock generation is now the limp around the block generation, but they're lasting longer, and 90% of all the equity is in the hands of people that are 70 years and older that are not dying. So that gives us a new problem,
Mhm.
because these people want a different lifestyle. I'm one of them, above 70. I'd love to find a one-floor living arrangement, and since I can't find it, I'm probably gonna build it for myself.
Right,
But every time I look at land, it's so darn expensive.
yes.
So that's one of the problems. So housing for the starting workforce, housing for seniors,
Mhm.
and then I think we have ample housing for people that want to move up a little, because a lot of housing opened up between 400 and 600 in the last year. But as soon as something under 400 opens, it goes the days it comes on the market. 'Cause There's
a high
10 to
demand.
1. We could sell 5 times as much if we had it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just us, Somerset County's the same way. So I think we're doing good, but I think we're not doing well as far as having something for everybody.
Right,
And I think the two that are missing, and their lifestyles have changed, are the seniors and the first-time buyers. And they both want the same thing, they just want it in a different area. They want high-rise luxury living in a moderate price point.
mm-hmm.
And that's when I asked Jim Hughes, what is gonna bring people back to Hunterdon County? And he said, quartz, stainless steel, high-rise luxury, and moderate pricing. And I noticed something's just going under where the AMP was in Clinton. Looks like it's gonna be 111 units.
I just saw that, yes, in the
Yeah.
newspaper, yes.
So that's a start.
Yeah.
We'll have 20% affordable housing, as everything does. But I looked at what's on Jack Cuss's property here and they're tiny. They're like 1,100 square foot. They just opened their doors 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
They do have garages. There's no basement storage. But I think it's a step in the right direction. We just need more for the seniors in
Right.
order to get them to be able to stay here rather than go live with the kids or go to Pennsylvania. Tell me about your plans for the year. Believe it or not, we have 10 minutes left, so we quickly.
So, I mean, we're working on the budget right now. I just came from a budget committee meeting, so, you know, the budget is always a challenge in terms of trying to, you know, there's always growth, but, you know, can we keep the tax rate stable to you know, a slight uptick and still keep and manage the growth because, you know, we have contractual obligations with salaries and wages with our various unions. You know, we've got a good team of people through our CFO, Janet Previtt, in terms of managing it. I mean, I credit my predecessors in terms of, you know, reducing spending significantly over the, you know, past 10, 12 years. I mean, there's been economies of scale, savings. You know, we closed the jail here. We moved inmates that we had to Somerset County. Now we've just moved them to Warren County because we got even a better opportunity for savings of at least $250,000 a year in terms of, you know, costs there. And so, you know, we continue to look for those economies of scale. You know, we're also here to help our municipalities and try to help them with shared services and help them keep, you know, their expenses at a low level. So, you know, it's an ongoing challenge. It's a almost daily thing that, you know, looking at in terms of, you know, what is it we spend, how do we spend it, can we spend it more efficiently than we do.
What about, this is a political football, but like the downtown project here and bringing people into?
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of great potential. You know, the county has largely stayed out of it because it's really, you know, a municipal decision. Flemington has got to decide, even though Flemington, yes, is the county seat, but, you know, the townspeople, the residents, you know, it's their destiny, so to speak, in terms of, you know, what is it that they want, because, you know, the legislature many years ago, you know, not imposed, but granted the ability for towns to manage their growth through home rule and through planning and zoning. So, you know, counties have largely stayed out of that, you know, that process. So, you know, I see us as here to be supportive of, you know, whatever it is that the majority wants to do. And, you know, it's unfortunate you know, the fighting that's going on, and there's, you know, valuable resources in terms of, you know, taxpayers' dollars being spent to fend these lawsuits. You know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, and I think probably some of it's going to take negotiation and try to, and I credit, you know, Jack Cust significantly because he's moved the dial multiple times toward trying to resolve, you know, the issues. But at some point there's a break point for him because it's a business decision and a financial decision, and at some point you know, he's going to say, I can't do anymore. I can't
the
move.
business model that we need. I mean, if you take a look at this Diamond Nation and this Health Quest, I mean, he brings teams in that have to stay 2 nights to play at Diamond Nation. So a lot of them are staying over in Somerset County because we don't have enough hotels.
Right.
But they're living, they're eating, they're falling in love. I'm running advertisements in the magazines that are in the hotel room, so if they want to stay, they call GOP. That's what we're looking for.
Yes.
And that's how we found it. We came out, I don't think we ever stayed overnight, but West came here 10 times in a late, early time. We moved here in '98, so it was the 5 years before that, before we decided where we were going to stay out here. And it's a great decision. I'm just looking for more people.
And those 100-room hotels are almost going up overnight in both the 22 corridor and the
Right.
202 corridor. But as you said, you know, in Somerset, I mean, there's a new one just opened up by the Bridgewater Commons Mall.
Right, he's in with the hamburger place next
Yes,
door. That's his
Zimberger.
restaurant.
And, you know, I'm a fan of the Somerset Patriots. I enjoy going to the Patriots game and
Yeah.
I've known Steve Califer for a number of years. And I mean, look what he did and working with the county to, you know, revitalize that area of Bridgewater and, you know, bring people out to go to a baseball game and not have to spend a fortune for a ticket and, you know, food and things like that. So, you know, it's been a great, you know, and they paid off the debt a few years ago. So, you know, positive to Somerset County. The other thing we're going to embark on this year is a renewal of our farmland preservation program. So last year we did an update to our county open space plan, and now we're going to do our farmland plan. It's due. It's been 10 years. The state, you know, wants it no more than 10 years. And so, we're gonna now look at the next 10 years to see, okay, what does the county have left in terms of farmland to preserve? Are there other types of what I call niche farming that, is just starting up, or maybe even something we haven't thought about yet that we can help,
Right.
blossom into more agriculture to keep Hunterdon rural and keep that, in the county symbol there,
So if I remember right, about 25% of our acreage is farmland.
Correct.
And about 25% of that is farmland preserved. So, and we're
Correct.
buying it up at really nice. I remember I listed 20 acres, the last road before you went into Mercer down in the Amwell somewhere. And I didn't get home, and the neighbor called me on the sign, and he went into farmland preservation and bought the 20 acres and kept it so that it was only zoned to build free houses. They
Right.
didn't want the free houses on it.
Right.
So, and Tewksbury is so typical of that, some of the.
Well, and now that the state is, now there's a permanent source of funding through the corporate business tax
Did not
to
know that.
carve out, for open space, so for the Green Acres program, for
Right.
farmland preservation, and then a small amount for historic preservation. So now it gives, counties and municipalities and not-for-profits, a flight path, so to speak, that, they know there's gonna be, a set amount of money, and then it's divvied up according to, scale. And if you have a plan in with the state or the county approved, and then, leverage the county open space and farmland money, as well. So that has given the program new life and stability, to move the ball forward. I mean,
So what is the school choice program about that I read about?
the school choice, I mean, as far as I can tell, it's related to, do parents have a choice in terms of where they would like, their child to go to school? In other words, if they're in a community where, the school is not the best, can they have their child go to, a school in another municipality or another school district?
Okay.
There was at the state level set aside monies to well, there was this, I believe there was money set aside, and then coupled with a tuition rate that would allow school districts to participate in that, to where they were, attracting children to come to the school to help their own budgets and offset the standard, we're raising this amount of money through taxes, and then there's state aid, education aid that they get. So I think it's I can't tell you if it's been successful or not, because I haven't paid enough attention to it. I know it's, in some areas, it's pitted community against community, because it will potentially sap a community of kids
I
that.
get a lot of people saying, I need to be in this sending district.
Yeah.
I do not want my kids going to the big school, I want them going to the moderate high school, it's typically between North and Central.
Right.
If they can now make that choice, of course, there's the transportation issue still
Correct.
left. But
Correct.
we get so much competition to over, I think I lived in Cyril when my kids grew up, and my girls went to St. Mary's in South Amboy, and boys went to St. Joe's in Metuchen. I was spending $375 a kid bus fee back then, because we
Right.
had to pay for our own buses.
Right.
So it's always been an issue, and I gotta tell you, when a young couple's with me, they've got their phone out, they've got Zillow open, they're looking at the school reports. And I'm saying, did you consider this? I said, well, what's the school report look like? They're really keen, even if they don't have kids yet.
Yes.
So we're at our 4:45 mark.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming
All right,
on,
thank you for
Shaun.
having me.
Any last comments before we break?
As I said, earlier, I've enjoyed doing public service. I'm here for the people in Hunterdon. Open door, phone, email, however people want to get in touch with me about any issues, they're free to do that.
Numbers on the internet, and your emails there.
Through the county website, yeah.
Great. Shaun Van Doren, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll keep in touch. Maybe have you back a year from now. See
Sure.
what's happening. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Another meeting we go to.
Yeah, we have freeholder meeting tonight, so.
Good luck. Anything important on the agenda?
No, usually, well, actually, we have grant money we're giving out for art and history, so I know we have some art and history groups coming in to award them some grant money. So
Well, good luck. I appreciate you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care.
once again, it's Joe Peters, Shaun Van Doren, who is our freeholder director. He's been on the board of freeholders for 3 years. His first year he's as a director. And we got to talk about some of the things in his background and some of the things going forward as to what's going on in Hunterdon County. I will have several other people from different county agencies on in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. All of this is always available for replay. Today is Tuesday, February 18th, and it is about 4:47. I didn't play any commercials because Shaun had to run, so I'm going to play a few of our paid commercials, and I'll be back before we break. Thank you.
One of the biggest decisions in your lifetime is buying or selling a house. Choosing a realtor with strong client communication, technology, and marketing skills will dramatically improve your chance of success. That's why Hunterdon and Somerset's residents rely on Joe Peters. Joe believes his clients deserve a smooth and seamless experience, not a roller coaster ride. As a Coldwell Banker sales associate with 20 years of experience, he's helped hundreds of people to achieve their goals and dreams, no matter where they were in the buying or selling process. Joe accomplishes this by approaching every transaction from a business perspective. Initially, he tries to fully understand your goals and dreams and make them his own. Then he takes the mass amount of data that's available and distills it down to a few understandable action points. And finally, he controls the entire process through technology and marketing. The end result to you is a smooth, rewarding customer experience. Let Joe show you how to take his professional expertise and put it to work for you. To contact Joe, go to jpeters.com or call 908-238-0118.
You're listening to WHCR-DB, HunterdonChamberRadio.com. Brought to you by the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business.
Tal sin fines de lucro. Somos empleados voluntarios. Somos la voz de la nación sobre las enfermedades.